we find in the book of Acts in the New Testament, St. James presiding at the Council of Jerusalem. So he seems to be the head of the church, at least in Jerusalem. This excites Protestants, of course, because we say that Peter is the first pope, so he will be the head. But there's a failure to understand there the nature of episcopal authority and how it's divided into jurisdictions, and how there's a distinction between the jurisdiction of ordinary bishops, who are successors of the apostles, and the Pope, who has a specific jurisdiction in Rome, but also a worldwide jurisdiction. Eusebius, in his 4th century work, The History of the Church, confirms that James was indeed the head of the church at Jerusalem. So how did James obtain this position? We find that out from reading chapter 257 of the Poem of the Man God, which is contained in the 2nd volume of the 5-volume work. Its title is Jesus Reveals to James of Alphaeus His Future Apostolic Mission, and it's a vision given to Maria Valtorta on the 20th of August 1945. And I might just add here that there are 2 Jameses in the apostolic group. This is James, son of Alphaeus and of Mary Clopas, to be distinguished from James, the brother of St. John, the beloved disciple, who are sons of Mary Salome. In the previous chapter, chapter 256, Jesus has been described as going up Mount Carmel with James. It is the same time on the following day. James is still in the fissure of the mountain and is sitting all curled up, with his head almost resting on his knees, which are drawn up and embraced by his arms. He is either engrossed in meditation or sleeping. I do not know which. He is certainly unaware of what is happening around him, that is, of the flight of 2 large birds, which for some private reason are duelling fiercely on the little meadow. I would say that they are mountain cocks, or wood grouse, or pheasants, because they are the size of a cockerel, with variegated feathers, but they have no combs, but only a helmet of flesh, as red as coral, on the top of their heads and on their cheeks. And I can assure you that if their heads are small, their beaks must be like steel spikes. Feathers fly in the air, and blood falls to the ground in a dreadful noise, which has caused all whistling, trilling and warbling to come to an end among the branches. Perhaps the little birds are watching the wild fight. James does not hear anything. Jesus does hear, and comes down from the hilltop to which he had climbed, and clapping his hands, he separates the 2 opponents, which fly away bleeding, one towards the mountainside, the other to an oak tree on the top, where it tidies its shaggy ruffled feathers. James does not raise his head, even at the noise made by Jesus, who takes a few more steps smiling, and stops in the middle of the little meadow. His white tunic seems to become tinged with red on the right-hand side, so deep is the crimson of sunset. The sky seems to be catching fire, and yet James cannot be asleep, because as soon as Jesus whispers, he just whispers, "James, come here." He lifts his head from his knees, frees his legs from the embrace of his arms, stands up and comes towards Jesus,